you want to keep on recording? There we go. Okay. First of all, there's what are the common elements in a power outage? Usually there's mass confusion, there's damages that aren't known, and there's a lot of utility power line crews that are getting out on the road to survey them and repair the lines. Switchboards and websites get really overwhelmed very quickly with callers that are reporting outages or issues that may affect the power lines. Power companies and city staff can also get inundated with calls that include both city websites and other social media posts. And sometimes people tend to clog the lines with things that are not under the control of the power company or the city. We do ask that you try to refrain from calling about other issues if it's not immediate, because they do get really bogged down and then real emergencies can't get taken care of. The greatest thing that you can do to be prepared is to think about if your need is an emergency that needs to be reported and to whom the information needs to go. For an example, information on power outages should be directed to the utility companies. If it's a call about a downed tree that affects roadways, only those calls should be directed to the city that you're in. Most of you are going to be City of Eugene, their Public Works Department. If the tree affects a power line as well, which often is the case, you should alert the person that you're speaking with, either at the city or at eWeb, and state the exact location of where that power pole is, if it's known, and the involvement on the power lines. City of Eugene Public Works Department starts working on weather events prior to the event hitting in the area, if it's a weather event that we can see coming. So we want you to know that we are already preparing, we're already calling in extra crews, and we're working on that, and we continue to work through the weather event and after it to make sure that our community is safe. So we want you to remember to always have patience, because more than likely you're going to have to take care of yourself for a little while until the utility company or city staff can get to your area. And lastly, we want you to remember that there's usually little or no warning as to the severity of the power outage. While the utility lineman crews and the city staff can gear up and plan for known weather events, the unknown events such as a landslide that can occur with snow or heavy rains, an earthquake or wildfires can bring changing elements to the situation. There's two main types of power outages. There's natural and human caused. Both have the capacity to be dangerous, and both will affect your life. Human caused disasters can come in many forms and can include human error, terrorism, manufacturer failures, and other human originating issues that end in a disaster. Natural disasters of many kinds can affect the power grid or a single power pole or service. We want to remind you to take care of your trees and shrubs throughout the year and other structures that may cause damages to power lines. So avoid placing sheds or play structures underneath power lines or in power easements. You need to remember to maintain a clear area for the utility company personnel to access their easement if you have one in your backyard or in the front yard if they need to. If you've got animals that might include livestock or even just your dogs, please go ahead and pull them in so that they are out of the way of utility personnel if they have to get into your backyard in an emergency notice. And the following video talks specifically on the principles of wildfires, but the same principle is the same for any kind of emergency. I'm going to make that a little bit louder. 1 second here. I'm not sure if everybody can hear that, so I'm going to make it a little bit louder. There we go.
Entire community. Is your emergency supply kit packed? Are the documents safe?
I'm not able to hear it. I don't know if other people are.
It's just
No.
following the words on the screen. If you can read them.
I'm watching the words on the screen and otherwise it's just a
Sorry about that. It sounds like maybe the video wasn't coming through on your side.
Yeah, just barely.
Oh, sorry about that.
It was good though. Good stuff.
Okay. It's a FEMA video, so you can go online and you can look those up, just looking at those preparedness videos. So on this slide, we want to talk about how periodically on your radio and your TV stations that you'll hear emergency alerts, or you'll actually have a test. This is an example of one of the tests that Chase came across last week. And so we want to make sure that, we get them periodically, and sometimes we just tune them out. We want to make sure that you're actually looking at your TV to make sure that it is only a test. Or if you're in your radio, in your car listening to the radio, make sure that you're paying attention. If it's a test, that's great. If it actually is an emergency, they will be giving valuable information to you. In the city of Eugene, we look at the known disasters and evaluate potential occurrence and how that disaster would affect the community. And it's called a risk assessment. So this actually is something that is taken out of one of our books. And this is how we look at our assessments. They're rated from high to medium down to low. So you can see that the volcano was a very low probability for the Eugene area, but a wildfire or winter storm are rated very high. As with any larger scale disaster, like a recent power outage that was caused by the snow and the wind in the last couple of weeks, when the power goes out, it can become a cascading problem. So you may have a loss of information and communications. And if you can't communicate, how do you inform others of your situation? If the roads are impassable or bridges are out, how do you get to your family to reunify? And how do the emergency responders get to your location to assist you? This is where it's important to plan and practice in your event for both your at-home event and also when you're at work, because you may be at work, but your kids may be at home. So you want you to try and practice and do that often so that it becomes just a routine. So when the actual event happens, you're not scared about that. The other thing to consider is you have elderly parents or something, make sure that they have an easy way of feeling comfortable if there is an emergency as well. As far as city preparedness occurs, we are working with a lot of different books and everything. We're constantly upgrading them. The city of Springfield and Eugene combined together for the emergency operation plan, and that provides the guidelines and the methods for how we respond to an incident. It's our playbook, so to speak, in football terms, of how we move throughout an incident. It's all part of the National Incident Management System through our emergency operations plan. And the plans all get updated. They've all been updated from the dates that are showing on the screen here, but we use those documents literally daily in our operations throughout events. The emergency operation plan breaks down the functions that occur as part of an emergency, as well as which department plays a role in the function. And this makes it easy for the sorting of duties for either a primary duty or a support duty. And they're recognized by either a P or an S in this graphic here. So that makes the departments know exactly what they're going to be working on. You can see here that human resources is at the bottom of the graph, and they don't have very many things that they are actually working on, and none of which are a priority. They're just a support duty. But we do need, you see emergency management and finance on there. Emergency management is constantly going at everything. Everything on there is go, go, go. The natural hazards mitigation plan was last updated in spring of 2020 during COVID, and while our EOC was up and operational, and we're already starting on the next update. The process for doing that takes about 4 to 5 years, and so it's in a constant mode of updating. And this is a funny little thing, but I don't think you guys are going to be able to see it, but this is Plan C. And Plan C stands for catastrophe. So you never want to be in a Dilbert type of situation where you're running around with your head cut off and you don't know what the heck you're doing. But so I'm not going to play this one because I don't think that the volume is going to work on this. So we're going to just bypass this one. In this past weeks, many of you experienced power outages. And if you want to be a survivor during a power outage, you have to pre-plan and prepare. Things like making sure that your gas tanks in your vehicles are full, not halfway, but full. And when the power goes down for you, the gas station power goes out as well. So that's why it's important. If you see a storm system or a bad weather event coming, don't be thrifty about it. Get to the gas station, get your tank full up. If you have a generator, get extra gas for your generator. If you're traveling, be extra sure of the weather as if it appears to be worsening. Either fill up your tank often as you're traveling along. Most of us travel, we'll go to the end of the tank, we'll pull into the station and fill up. In this case, you don't want to be trapped like we've seen on I-84, where people have been waiting 5 and 7 hours and they have to keep their car running to keep the heat going. The same thing can occur in the summertime where you need to have your AC. So for traveling, make sure that you have, that you're watching that weather and that you're keeping prepared. You'll need to keep food and water in your car. And also it's good to bring an emergency blanket. You know, those little tiny blankets that fold up, you know, less than a package of Kleenex. Keep a couple, 3 of those in your car at all times. You can use it as an emergency blanket to maintain your heat in your body. If you've got kids in the car in the back seat, they might not be getting as much heat coming out of the heater system. Wrap one around them in the back seat. The other thing that you can do is if it's a really hot day and you're stuck there and you're not moving, tuck one up in the front of your windshield underneath the visors. It'll keep the sun out of the car. So it's just kind of a nice, easy thing to do. You want to also keep your water and any medications or baby formulas easy and accessible, because you don't want to step outside of your car in the snow or in the heat and lose all that heat or air conditioning from your car, or worse yet, get hit by another vehicle who's being, you know, trying to get anxious and get by everybody. So keep that stuff within an easy reach of your car. If you're home, you may also need to be sheltering in place, and the same items I spoke about there apply as well.
Catherine, can I just add that when you're sharing your screen, you probably have a toolbar there, and if you click on that, you should be able to turn on audio sharing as well.
Let's see.
Maybe click a more button. It would be in the Zoom app.
Okay.
Or maybe not.
I'm not seeing it. No.
I think it's in the share screen settings.
The share screen in Zoom, not in on your computer.
Yeah,
Not in the slideshow.
share screen, and then down at the bottom, there's for video, audio. Not that I've done it often myself.
In my screen, when I share my screen, the little thing on the side goes way small. So bear with me here. I'll see if I can find that really quickly.
I didn't mean to jam things up. It's just that it's
Yeah,
useful
I
for
just have a
people to
little
know.
tiny ledge on the side that just shows people's names. I'm not seeing the whole availability. Do we need to have the volume up a little bit more still?
No, your volume is fine, but you wanted to share your computer audio, and I was just trying to facilitate that for us.
Yeah, so I don't have any more videos to show. I just had those little 2 ones there. So we'll just kind of continue on through this one. Let's see, more button. Share sound. There, that might have shared it. Okay, so priorities. It's better to prepare rather than to get caught and just take whatever comes your way. Kind of like, you know, if you have a dinner reservation, it's better to have a reservation than, you know, showing up and you can't get into anywhere except for Denny's and you're dressed up really nice. So prepare for what you want to have, you know, and just be secure in knowing that you have everything available. Here. Okay. Hazard assessment. This talks about looking at ways to mitigate your stress and your potential losses. And each situation is different, but high heat or cold weather can add additional worries. So you want to know what you're going to be expecting. You know, it could be one of these big things here. It could be a storm of any kind. You could actually be over in a whole different location. You could be over in Eastern Oregon, away from your home. But you'll want to just be aware of areas that you're visiting and what changes can be occurring, because degradation of the situation can occur very, very rapidly. Again, we're just going to go over again, create your own family plan and practice it. You always want to be at least at the minimum 2 weeks ready. We actually are trying to tell people to be at least 3 weeks ready, and that is per person. So when you're getting together your kits of water and food and so forth, make sure that you have enough to last for at least the minimum of 2 weeks, preferably 3. We also try to tell people that it's kind of a fun event. Hey, in the summertime, go out, practice, you know, and that can mean that, hey, you can just call up your kids and say, hey, we're having our fake earthquake. You need to make it back to the house. When they make it back to the house, you're going to pull out all your equipment. You're going to camp in the backyard. You're going to try all those yummy freeze-dried foods. And you're going to pretend, literally, I have had people that literally have shut off their, you know, their sub panel and really practice not having anything, no communications, no phones, everything gets put up and you work through it. So do try to practice if you have that availability and give it a go. Disaster preparation strategies. So one of the things that we look at is making sure that you're getting not only supplies like fuels, food, water, to make sure that your home and car insurance. I just recently did this myself when my husband and I thought, oh my gosh, I wonder if we have enough of insurance on all of our exterior structures. So I literally called and made sure that we had enough insurance to cover. So it's a good thing to kind of take that gut check and make sure that you're up to date with everything. Other things would be just making sure that your storage racks where you're storing all of your supplies and everything, they're located close to an area that you can get to and that they're not going to fall over. So strapping them up to a wall is a really good idea. Make sure you have flashlights in multiple locations and that you have extra batteries to be able to get to them. And in the Eugene-Springfield area and across the nation, there's programs that are called CERT, stands for Community Emergency Response Trainings, and they do teach you what to do. We have, as you can see here on the slide, and I'm sure that most of you are actually aware of this, City of Eugene has not been able to do, and we're gearing up to doing our very first one we've missed 3 of them since COVID hit because we cannot do the classes with the proximity that is required. But we do have now available, we pushed hard through the state and state pushed up to FEMA. We have been able to get an online version where you can do the main classwork part of a CERT training online through the University of Utah, which is a great thing. And we encourage everybody to take that minimal training. It's very basic stuff on how to survive and gives you some really good insights. The second part of that, which actually gets you your certification, has to be done in person, and we're gearing up to do that in April. So we're hoping to be able to start doing those more frequently so that we can get through. We've got about 200 people on our waiting list that are desperately waiting to finish off their training and be able to have access to that. But we do encourage you to get involved with your CERT or with other things such as the Egan Warming Center, and you can look them up online. They also have a virtual training through the Egan Warming Center, which is available online that you can look at. And then you can, after you do that, you can sign up for the alerts, and then they can send you an alert and they'll ask you, are you ready? Can you deploy? Can you show up? Can you be here to assist your community? So we really try to back up and encourage you to do that. We just got a notice right before I started this presentation that eWeb is doing a presentation on their website, and it is about how you can get slowly, week by week, I believe it's a 52-week program, how you can slowly create your preparedness bag by literally once a week, you buy 1 extra item and you are getting prepared for any type of emergency. And if anybody has any questions, I'm going to leave this up here for a little bit. My email is on there. You can always feel free to email me at any point in time. We do have access to publications that we can make available to your neighborhood leaders so that they can pass out. They have been limited in supply, so we have been limited with being able to obtain them because they weren't printing a lot of the supplies, but we're starting to gear back up again. And again, ready.gov, their website is up there. They have some great information on there. Our Eugene Spring site is there, and also Oregon.gov OEM, which is the Office of Emergency Management, They have a plethora of information on there for being prepared and for resources in the case of any issues. So do feel free to touch base. The leaders that invited me tonight have access to getting a hold of me as well if you need to later on. I'm going to unshare my screen, and if anybody has any questions, I am happy to answer. I'm going to look at the chat here and see what I see on the chat. Oh, thank you. It looks like somebody posted the video, so that's great. Thank you for doing that. And it looks like somebody said, Joanna is saying that they did not receive anything. I believe that there was a email that went out that had the informational thing that was at the top of the link for this video, for the presentation for the Zoom. So
I put the PDF in for everyone.
Okay, good. All right. Oh, there it is underneath there. Is there a city emergency radio station? I don't see that in the handout. The city actually is working on finishing off and getting up to 14 ham radio stations. So we are working on a ham radio site with updating to have 14 deployable. We are working with all of the ham radio people, and we're actually starting to do some exercises on there. As far as an emergency radio station, we don't have an emergency radio station other than we do have our ham radio that we will be working through. And if you're interested in getting some of that information, please go ahead and contact me and I can put you in touch with the person in our staff that is working on those trainings. We just recently did one with our CERT that was very successful. There's a video. NOAA weather, David, thank you for posting that. That's information that's helpful as well. And let's see what else we see on here.
The evacuation zones section of the Eugene website actually has some radio stations listed, so I posted those in there too.
Thank you, I see that. And the city of Eugene has a whole bunch of information. Most of it is located on the public works side. If you don't know where your nearest snow route is, I encourage you to look at that. The snow routes, although they call them a snow route, would be the same routes. They're the main streets that run through town that are our first go-to to make sure, because there are arterial roads. We are always making sure that those are clear. If you happen to have, and I don't think I mentioned this, but like somebody that maybe you're holding their car for them because they went on a trip and it's parked in the street, they're on vacation, and we have these kinds of events, make sure that if you have guests or whatever, that they leave their keys with you or an extra set so that you can move their car. Otherwise, we will be towing it because our main concern is getting our community out of areas. And so to do that, we've got to get cars off the street. So if you're on one of those snow routes, just be aware you may need to move your vehicles off site, and that could be jamming up your driveway, but at least you're getting the streets cleared. Where can you sign up for CERT online? It is through the University of Utah. And I will stick in the chat here. Let's see if I can do that. Oh, here we go. Here's some CERT hazard ready. You can contact Tracy Bear, who is our lead contact. And if you're interested, or you can contact me, and then I can put you in trust with Tracy Bear. She is our main contact, and she can give you an email information that gives you the direct link to University of Utah. And again, it walks through all the basic stuff that you would get in the classroom. It doesn't do the actual hands-on where you're actually doing the triage or anything like that. That has to be done in person. And I don't see any other questions on here. Has eWeb restarted its pledge to prepare? Yes, they just put that in there, and we just got, that was the thing I was just talking about. So if you go onto eWebsite and put in there the pledge to prepare, you should be able to get that information and sign up for that. And I believe it's a weekly email that comes out. It should give you all of that information. If anybody else has anything else, they can either speak out and Jackie can call them, or you can put it in the chat.
Yeah, it looks like we have two hands up. Megan, you want to go first?
Sure. I have two questions. One is that somebody asked about a radio. There's a reverberation. Someone asked about a radio station for the city, and I'm wondering if my understanding is that all our radio stations will be emergency broadcasting in an emergency, and we don't need to tune to any particular station. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, if there is a major emergency like a cascading event, or as you've already seen in the snow events, you know, all of the radio stations, all of the news stations are all going to be broadcasting things. They all have direct links through our emergency response and also our PIO system, which is our public information officer. So they're the ones that make sure that they get the correct messaging out to the radio stations, and the radio stations also feed information back to us. So that is correct. Just watch your news, listen to your radio. And again, you know, if you need to step outside because you don't have any power, just always remember, if you have a crank radio, like an emergency radio, and you can pick those up for like 25 bucks on Amazon, just saying they're the coolest things to get for your grandkids or your kids. They think it's absolutely fantastic. They go out there and crank up their little radio and they turn on channels, and it's kind of like, you know, I grew up on walkie-talkies. So those are fun to have. You don't need power, or you can step into your vehicle, turn on your car briefly and listen to your radio in there.
I have one other question. Just wondering, you mentioned, you know, make sure to fill up your car. If you see a storm coming, don't be thrifty. And I was just thinking, as you were talking about all the people that can't afford to do that. And I'm wondering if the city has kind of a lens in the training that you do and the presentations you do around just how to be responsive to low income needs.
So with regard to low income needs, I know that the city, I know that police officers and stuff, if there's a real emergency or something, just like tow truck companies will often give you a gallon of gas type of a situation. We cannot, we don't go out and fill up people's tanks because we have to be fiduciarily responsible to a higher level. So we, the city, don't have a availability, as far as I'm aware, of being able to go and just fill up people's tanks.
Yeah. So
What we do teach and talk to each other about is take care of your neighbors. If you know that a neighbor next door is really, really tight on money and they may not even have enough food or water or be prepared, period, we encourage people, you know, to go ahead and check in on your neighbor. Sometimes just having, just knocking on the door or smiling or waving through the glass, it brings a brightening smile. They know that they're not forgotten. If somebody, you know, is in desperate need, like in a wildfire case situation, we would say that you would be best to go ahead and grab up those people if you have room in your vehicle and take them with you. You know, it's all about community. Each individual neighborhood is a small village, and we just try to encourage, you know, no matter what your feelings are, it's a life, it's a human being, and take care of each other. So we do encourage you through the CERT program and other programs just to try to be helpful in that way.
thanks.
Thank you. And Matt, you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. My question was, have you heard of anything going on with Eugene-MCOM?
We have been, I am not the person that is in charge of the ham radio. Jeremiah Bridges on our emergency response team is the person who is the lead on that. I kind of work with our CERT to work with our ham radio CERT people. And yes, Eugene-MCOM has been identified, and I just don't know to what extent. But if you would like to interchange in, Jeremiah Bridges is our nexus point for the ham radio.
Okay, I'll make sure to contact him.
Yeah.
I think that about covered it, except for the only thing I've done for Eugene-MCOM recently was two things. In the past, like 2019 or thereabouts, I created a citywide plan for how the FRS radios would communicate to their own each neighborhood hub. And later published into this document, the Neighborhood Radio Communications Response Guide.
Yep, that's the one that we just published. So,
Yes. So,
yep, and we are working with that. We just exercised on that for the first time in the southeast neighborhood, and we also brought it down into, it covered a lot of different neighborhoods. I think it went into Friendly, Whitaker, and Bethel area. So we had groups that went out kind of on a fake emergency. And so they would literally show up at an address, look at the sign that was in the front yard, and they would call in and tell us what the situation was. So it was a pretty good training for the first go of it, and we're going to keep on ramping up from there. So we're hoping to have now 14 stations. We have 7 fully available in Pelican case on carts with tents, deployable ham radio stations that we can send out across the city. And we've got 7 more of those that we are currently ordering right now. And we got those through grants that we obtained. So we do have to operate on grant system because they're very, very expensive to get all the equipment and get it updated.
Yeah, have you established station locations in?
We do have them
Any buildings?
established, and yeah, we do have them established. We've been working with Eugene Ears and another group. And again, I'm sorry, I just don't have all of the information, but we do have locations identified, and some of those are going to be at city, like community centers, so we can get up high enough. And some of them are going to be literally in parks throughout the city. So they'll be, you know, posted up at parks.
Okay, I think that about answers it. If you excuse me, I gotta attend a ham radio net. It's been going on for like 13 minutes now. I have to jump out early, okay?
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Matt.
All right, see ya.
Let's see, Jolene, do you have a question?
I do. So this is a follow-up question in terms of the location for those ham radio communication pop-up tents. I know in River Road, we have a couple of at least one emergency water site set up in the event of a water system failure. And I'm wondering if there's coordination in terms of setting up communication centers. For instance, you mentioned community centers also maybe at the schools or in conjunction with those emergency water sites. Do you know, is that connected?
Yeah, so we don't usually divulge the locations just because we're going to have thousands and thousands of dollars that are going to be deployed out there. If you are interested in working or standing up or working in one of those centers, I would say to go ahead and contact us, and then we can get you in touch with our training people and get you assigned to one of those pop-up locations. Yes, we also are doing those emergency water through eWeb. Is that the emergency water that you're talking about?
Right.
Yeah. So that's kind of my baby. I've been working on that and working on training those, and they've got a few more sites that they're going to be pulling up in the next few months, hopefully in the next 6 to 8 months, adding more sites to it. So they're mostly, we've got one at Sheldon, we've got one over at the Lane County Fairgrounds, and there's Howard Elementary has one. There's a few more that are in the works as well. So the thought would be that we can group those together so that we have a captive audience, so to speak. So we have people coming to pick up their water and also to be able to communicate from the community to us so we can pass that information up the line and get assistance to them. Is the city of Eugene working to get dam inundation maps available that were promised in December by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers? Yes, we are working on getting those, and it is something that once they become available, sorry, my cat's trying to climb in the window. Once they become available, they will be online, and they are actually surprisingly opening up those maps to general public. So you will have access to see those new maps that have been updated by U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. When you see those popping up, you will probably be very surprised about how much of a water swell in many areas that there is anticipated to be from some of those things. So even more of a urgency to be prepared and to actually pay attention to changing conditions.
Thank you very much.
I have an additional plug kind of about the flooding lately with the weather that we've been having. Something to keep an eye on is not just your proximity to the river, but potentially any storm drains that might be backing up. We had experienced that a lot in the last couple of days. The drains were clear on the street, but the water was just kind of backing up and piling up and getting dangerously close to some neighbors' houses. So just a plug to keep an eye on those rapidly changing conditions as we're in this current rainy season.
Yeah, that's a good reminder. Thank you, Jackie, because sometimes actually if your storm drain is one of those that is labeled as going directly into the Willamette, and usually you'll see that little fish, the salmon sign on it, because it has a direct connection in. When the rivers get really backed up, it can actually surcharge back up that pipeline. So it's not uncommon to have those start bubbling back up onto the street. We would want you to always be very careful in approaching a storm drain. In fact, don't approach a storm drain because the cover may have lifted. If you see that situation, or if you're aware of that situation of something that's backflowing or that is just really flooding, do call into Public Works and let them know. If there's an address or if you can say that it's 3 trees past this intersection on the left-hand side of the road, or west or east, if you can give some sort of a direction of where the issue is, that's very helpful.
Charlie, you have your hand up?
I wanted to kind of ask a question about how we can make sure to coordinate with you, Catherine, and your office as best as possible. We have this emergency preparedness effort in our neighborhood, and I know that Santa Clara and Bethel and so on, they have their efforts too, but it sounds like you're making plans that affect River Road, for instance, your water efforts and so on. Is there a way we can improve on the coordination together so that we know what's going on from your office?
The main coordination would be our main avenue currently right now is working through the CERT program, because the CERT program has people assigned to each of the neighborhood areas. And so they are our nexus that work underneath the city. It is owned by the CERT program here is owned by the cities of Eugene and Springfield. And so we also work, those leaders that are assigned to each neighborhood work with the neighborhood leaders and the preparation partners that are within those, and they keep a very close nexus. So Ed Farron is part of this, the CERT. Jackie has been part of the CERT. So they're all people that, we ask that you just have one person from each neighborhood contact us. Otherwise we have, we get inundated with people saying, hey, I need 5 Map Your Neighborhood booklets. And that's not the way that the Map Your Neighborhood is passed out. It actually needs to be done in a specific way through a meeting, a neighborhood meeting. So if you want to walk through or be a representative for a specific area, you can contact me directly and let me know what piece of that you're looking to gain more information. I'd be happy to help you.
Okay, thank you.
Joel, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on that, Catherine, because I don't know if Bethel knows who theirs are. Well, I guess that's Ed, but I don't know who Santa Clara's CERT is. So if you have that information, it'd be good to know, because we don't seem to know of any representation out here.
I can check with and I don't have a list right here available at my computer right now.
Okay.
And I don't keep those in my head. Unfortunately, I have a list of it. I can get that information back to Jackie and have her pass that out to you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
And I can make sure that they are, if they're, it could be a nexus that's not going through right now.
Okay, thanks.
Lena?
Yes, when you're referring to the CERT leaders, are you referring to the district leaders?
Correct.
Like there's one for Northwest, and I know that we have one for Southeast, but that includes like a lot of neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have Southeast 1, Southeast 2, Southeast 3. So our district leader covers It's got to be a dozen or more neighborhoods. So,
That's correct. Yes.
and that's what you're considering the line of communication?
That's the main line that we use here at the city. We also, I mean, there's also, the city of Eugene also has a neighborhood department that, you know, that they work specifically with individual neighborhoods that the city defines as individual neighborhoods, River Road, Santa Clara being one.
Right,
Friendly-
I'm part of Friendly Area Neighborhood, and I'm on
Mhm.
our Ready Friendly, which is our emergency preparedness.
Yeah, and I think
for
is
the
Carlos,
Friendly
I
Area.
think Carlos might be your, next.
Carlos is, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so Carlos is the main nexus that, he's the one that information comes up through us. So you should be working very closely if you have, you know, or if you're not getting any feedback, you know, through, you can feel free to always contact me. It's not a problem at all. I'm pretty much available 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Ed, you're Northwest, so wouldn't that include Santa Clara and River Road?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, speak up then. Joel needs to know.
Well, I guess I haven't heard all the stuff that Catherine is telling us. I mean,
So there's a problem with the communications because even Ed didn't know that he was representing Santa Clara, I guess, or.
no, I knew that, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then somehow we got to figure out this communication loop because,
We do.
you know, got to get you more in the loop, I guess, Ed, and working with Catherine and that and figuring all this out.
Yeah, I'm not aware of the update of the emergency plans you were talking about, Catherine.
Yeah, so this is the information I'm bringing forward is something that normally I do as presentations, but it's not something that we would be, you know, this is just something that's completely available on our website. So I don't usually give this talk to our CERT people because we just don't go into this level. So this is kind of just a really general preparedness and how to deal with specifically a power outage on this particular talk here. So I can bring that up to at our next CERT meeting, and maybe it's a good time since we have some new people to kind of go over where on the website to look for some of this information so you have a little more preparedness. Because I'm sure there may be some other people as well that maybe need to know as well.
Could be, yeah. That'd be a good idea, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be great. All right, so we got about 5 minutes left in the meeting here. I do want to give a quick plug to our next month's meeting, February 1st. We're going to be having a virtual evacuation exercise. So our meeting is going to be about an hour and a half long instead of an hour. And we're going to simulate a chlorine gas leak in the Northwest Eugene area. So something like this could have big impacts to a lot of surrounding neighborhoods if something is in the air and the winds shift. So we invite everybody to join us. Everybody is welcome to come no matter what neighborhood you're in to join that conversation. If you want to drop your email within the chat here, we'll make sure that you get added to a list that gets that information and any follow-up links for tonight. But that event is going to be Tuesday, February 1st from 6 to 7:30. And it will be totally virtual, but we're going to talk about what would happen if this emergency actually happened. How would you evacuate? What route would you take? Do you even know how you would be notified of something like that? So we'll talk through that scenario. Any other questions or final items that anybody'd like to share? Fred?
I have a little show and tell I found out last week. This is a blessing bucket put up by God's Pit Crew. It's a initial response to disaster areas. It contains water, toilet paper, paper towels, toothbrush, toothpaste, first aid kit, some ready to eat food, shampoo and soap and flashlight. It's just a quick 1 or 2 day cure for, they pass these buckets out. It's a company or nonprofit out of Virginia, and they send truckloads or pallet loads of these buckets to disaster areas, like after wildfires or hurricanes, just to
Oh.
get people through the day.
That's really neat.
Great.
Can you put it in the chat, the information from that bucket, so we can save it?
I don't know how to chat.
There's
I
a
can-
little button at the bottom. It looks like a bubble, a
Oh.
voice bubble.
Okay.
Do you see where it shows participants at the bottom there?
Right next to it is chat.
Yeah.
I do have that information written down, not easily retrievable right now, so I can send it out.
If he wants to hold it up again, I'll type it.
Okay.
I also had another question in chat, if you can see it, if there's time. And a couple other comments.
Okay, while you're talking, if Fred can hold, oh, you've got it there. Very good.
Cynthia,
Already there, Fred.
looks like I see, why isn't dam failure listed as Eugene-Springfield hazard threat in the 2020 mitigation plan, and will it be in the updates? Does anybody have insight on that?
I think because it's not a dam failure technically within the city of Eugene or Springfield, but the flood that would occur is the one that would be hitting us.
Yeah.
It is represented, but the dam isn't in our jurisdiction. So what is going to affect us as a threat is the flood issue. So, and it's substantial. So
Flood Riverine is the only one listed as a threat. I guess it would all come through the rivers, but yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it would come through the rivers or is the main source. I mean, obviously everything, the little pockets like, Amazon Park and all of those, they all are fed by some of these streams and so forth. So but the main majority of it is going to be coming through the rivers. So the McKenzie, the Willamette, the different forks of the Willamette and so forth.
Hey, it's something we're going to stay on top of, hopefully. Thank you very much for this presentation. It's great.
Yeah, you're welcome. And by the way, City of Springfield just, I received a grant that they are going to be able to go and fix up part of their levee system that runs through City of Springfield out by 42nd Avenue, I believe, which has been identified for years to be a major failure point. So that is good news in that they're going to be able to start working on some of those, because everything, of course, water floods downhill. So if we can contain it rather than flooding out Springfield, which would then continue flooding out into outlying areas, that's all good for everybody on down the line.
Yeah, that is good news. That's like Bob Straub Parkway down in that area. Yeah, okay, good. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, we are at time for tonight, so I want to let everybody go and get back to their evening. This recording will be posted on YouTube, and the link will be shared. You can contact the person who invited you to this meeting to get in touch with one of the organizers here tonight if you don't have our direct email addresses, but we will send out some of these follow-up links in the meeting notes. And we look forward to seeing everybody next month on February 1st for our evacuation exercise.
Great. Thanks everyone for showing up.
Yeah, thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine.